everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Allison. I am an American living and working in Linz, Austria as a school librarian. This is my first monthly reading wrap-up, which I am going to call speed reviews because I tend to read a fair number of books each month, usually around 20. This particular month was a little bit less than that for reasons I'll get into later. So I really want these videos to just have quick information about my impressions of the books, not really like detailed plot summaries or anything, but I will leave links to all of the books that I talk about in the description box below to my bookshop.org page, so if you want to see summaries and more information, you can always check there. Also, if you click and shop through my link, then I do earn a tiny little bit of commission, which just helps me buy more books. So yeah, let's get into all of the books I read in August, because almost halfway through September is a perfectly fine time to do a reading wrap-up, right? Hopefully these will become more consistent and earlier in the month, but like I said, it's been kind of a hard month. So in August, I do have my laptop open to my Goodreads page over here, so if I'm looking off camera, that's where I'm looking. I started off the month continuing with the Cozy Mystery series that I have sort of been marathoning these past couple of weeks. So I read Silent Auction and Deadly Threads, which are the 5th and 6th books in the Josie Prescott Antiques Mystery series by Jane Cleland, or Cleland, I'm not sure how she pronounces her name. So here's the thing about Cozy Mysteries. I really like them because they're easy reads. They usually are set in like quaint small towns with lots of interesting characters and picturesque settings, and I like trying to figure out what happened before the author reveals it and all of that. But so far I haven't necessarily found anything that I feel like is a standout, excellent Cozy Mystery series, with the exception of, what is her name? The one's written by Jen McKinley. She has 2 series, well, she has 3 Cozy Mystery series. I don't love the one that's set in the cupcake shop because I feel like there's a lot of fat phobia in that one, but the library series and the hat shop series I both really like. Other than that, like, I keep reading Cozy Mysteries. I feel like they're easy reads. I like them, but they're not like exceptional. And I feel that way about the Josie Prescott series too. I enjoy them, but they're not like standout reads to me. I have a couple of frustrations with this particular series, which I feel like are really nitpicky, but they really bother me. One of them is that this series has like 13 or 14 books in it now, and it seems like each one is set like about a year after the one before it, and despite that, the main character does not age. Like, the kids that appeared in the series in the second book as like 3- and 5-year-olds have gone on to college and the military and whatever, but the author has been saying she's in her mid-30s, or not, the main character has been saying she's in her mid-30s since like the very beginning. So that bothers me. I know it's really silly, but it just makes me annoyed. And there's this one character who I just can't stand, and I feel like there has been some character growth with this character, but I still find them like super duper annoying, and I just can't get over it. Anyway, despite that, I like the antique setting. I like reading about the research they do as antique stealers. I feel like that appeals to the librarian in me. And just like learning about the different antiques and stuff, so that's all interesting. So these are like middle of the road reads for me. I'm gonna keep reading the series, but it's not anything special. That was way longer than like speed review. But anyway, The next book I read was While We Were Dating by Jasmine Giller. It's the latest romance in her series that she has. Please excuse my cat, who has like some sort of attention issues. She is super, super whiny pretty much all the time. I'm pretty sure someone has moved into the room next door because she's constantly meowing at that particular wall as if like she needs to get something. Anyway, so she's going to be meowing probably throughout this. And I wish I could make her stop. I haven't figured out how. She does it when she's hungry and she's not hungry, when she's meowing at the wall and when she's meowing at other things. She's just a whiny cat. So again, please excuse her and let's keep going. While We Were Dating by Jasmine Giller, it's the latest in her rom-com series. I really, really loved this one. The connection to the prior books is that the main male character is Theo's brother, Theo being the first book character. He works with her in the Berkeley mayor's office, and he also, I think, was the romantic lead of, I believe, the third book. Anyway, so that's that connection, but the woman main character is an actress, and I just, first of all, one of my favorite tropes is famous person and not famous person fall in love, so this meets that. And she's just a really great main character. I liked this one as much as, if not more than, all the other ones. I still feel like the second book in the series is my favorite, but this one might have moved into second place, although really, I just love them all, and I will continue to read anything that Jasmine Guillory writes. So definitely get that one. Then, two more Josie Prescott mysteries, Dolled Up for Murder and A Lethal Treasure. Again, I've already talked at length about this series. I don't really have anything to add, I don't think. Again, I'm pretty sure I rated all of these 3 stars on Goodreads. Like, I just feel like they're middle of the road. They're not going to stick in my mind forever, but, you know, it's an enjoyable experience while you're reading it. Oh, okay. Then I read Blood, Rubies, The Glow of Death, and Ornaments of Death, the next 3 books 9, 10, and 11 in the same series. Yes, all solid reads. If you like cozy mysteries, I would recommend it, but nothing like extra special. So finally, moving on from the cozy mysteries, at least for a little while. I'm not gonna make any promises about later in the month, mostly because I can't actually remember and I haven't scrolled up that far on Goodreads. Next, I read Where the Rhythm Takes You by Sarah Das, which was exciting to me for a couple of reasons. Number one, it is set in a foreign country, that country being Tobago, which is part of Trinidad and Tobago. And the other reason is that it is a loose retelling of Persuasion. It also has, as Persuasion does, second chance romance, which is a trope I really like. And the romantic lead in this one, I guess you could also say it's a little bit of enemies to lovers. That's beside the point. I don't like that trope, but regardless, I enjoyed the book. The romantic male lead in this book has gone off, as happens in Persuasion, but he comes back a famous rock star, sort of. So it's a little bit famous, not famous, fall in love, which, as we've previously discussed, I really enjoy. So I would definitely recommend this one. It's got a great setting. If you like Jane Austen retellings, it's got that. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like there were maybe some aspects of certain characters that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. That's probably why I didn't give it 5 stars. But I still think that it's a solid YA romance. Again, I really like the Persuasion aspect. If that's your thing too, definitely check it out. If you like books set in other countries, check it out. All of that. So yeah, that is where the rhythm takes you. Next, I read 96 Words for Love by Rachel Roy and Ava Dash, I think is her name. I knew it had 2 co-authors, but only one is listed on this Goodreads list. So I read this in my effort to read some of the arcs that have been on my bookshelves for years and years and then get rid of them because, you know, I moved from New York to Austria. I brought with me 11 books out of the 7 bookshelves worth of books that I own. I tried very hard to downsize my collection. I'm not sure when these will go up, but I did a whole series of decluttering my bookshelves. Here's my cat, Molly, say hi. Reading 96 Words for Love was an effort to get a book off my shelves, like read it and hope that it wasn't a favorite so that I wouldn't feel bad with parting with it. And that's basically how I felt about it. Again, this is a book that takes place in a foreign country. The main character, something happens in her family and she ends up visiting India and living at an ashram, and there's a little bit of a mystery element and definitely a romance element and strong family ties. So while I definitely felt okay with not having it as a permanent part of my bookshelf and my collection, I do still think it was a solid read and I definitely recommend it. Then I read Stuck by Jennifer Swender, which I actually read for review for School Library Journal, so I am not going to say a lot about it here. If you want to know my full thoughts, you can read my review in SLJ, but I thought that the portrayal of a student with learning differences or learning difficulties, learning disability, however your school or your community labels that, was something that I think kids could really relate to. So if you know someone in the middle grades who struggles in school, this could be a really good book for them to read to sort of feel seen. So like, it wasn't a book that for me I would necessarily gravitate toward and want to pick up, but I definitely see its importance in terms of its place in middle grade literature, and definitely think it's good for, you know, actual middle grade students. And if you were thinking about adding it to a classroom library or a school library, I would definitely say go for it when it comes out in a little while. Then I read another middle grade, Anya and the Dragon by Sophia Pasternak. Again, I was hoping to read this one and then rehome it, and I really loved it. I had tried to read it a couple years ago when it first came out, and I got like 100 pages in and I just wasn't in the mood at that time. I will say that it gets really like violent and kind of harrowing for a middle grade book, and I know that, you know, we talk about how kids play video games that have violence all the time. Just something to be aware of if like you have kids that are a little bit more sensitive or like don't like violence or don't like seeing people hurt. I was kind of shocked at how violent it was, but at the same time, like, it's really cool, magical story. It's set in like Kievan Rus, it's like a really long time ago, like maybe the 1100s, which I think doesn't happen a lot in middle grade fantasy, and the main character is Jewish, which also, it's always good to have more Jewish stories, more representation of everything. So definitely recommend. I often don't continue on with middle grade series wearing my librarian hat for a minute. You know, I try to read as much as I can to like make the best recommendations I can when I'm helping kids find books, and so like often if I can read the first book in a series, like then I know who I can recommend it to and like who it's good for, and if those people like it, then they can continue on with the series on their own. But this one I kind of want to see what happens next, so I might pick up the next book in the series. Next, I read Our Way Back to Always by Nina Moreno. I loved Jonte Rosa Santos, so I was super excited to get a chance to read Nina Moreno's newest book. I kind of wish that I had saved it for September because I'm going to try to read all Latinx authors during Latinx Heritage Month, and it would have been a good one to read then, but it was great, despite the fact that I don't like enemies to lovers, and that is basically what it is. I feel like it's also a little bit of a second chance romance because the main characters were friends and had a falling out. I feel like I've actually read a couple of books that have that, like were friends, had a falling out, end up coming back together, like 3 or 4 recently. Anyway, despite my feelings about that particular trope, it was still a really fun book. You know, any book that has kind of a bucket list to complete, I like those books. Again, I feel like I've read a couple of those in the not too recent past. It seems to be a trending thing. So that was fun. It's set in the same community as Jonte Rosa Santos, and there are some cameos from characters from that book, so it's nice to see them again, and it's a fun rom-com. I definitely recommend it if you haven't checked out Nina Moreno's books. You know, start with Jonte Rosa Santos, but then as soon as Our Way Back to Always comes out, I highly recommend picking it up. Okay, 2 more Josie Prescott mysteries, Antique Blues and Hidden Treasure. Those are all of the books in the series that are published. The whole reason I started reading this series is because there was an advanced copy of the next one on NetGalley, and I saw that it was like, first of all, it's called Jane Austen's Lost Letters, and I like Jane Austen, so I figured I'd want to read this, and then I saw that it was the 14th book in a series. That's how I discover a lot of cozy mysteries I end up reading, is they'll be the most recent one on NetGalley, and I'll be like, oh, well, I should start at the beginning. So if you have other cozy mystery series that you recommend, definitely leave me a comment and let me know. I tend to prefer ones that are set in food or book related settings. So I like bookstore ones, I like bakery ones, I like library ones. I know the antique one doesn't fit into any of those categories, but like I said before, I do feel like the research aspect of their work really calls to my librarian heart. So, Antique Blues, Hidden Treasure. I feel like by this point in the series, you know, it's the 13th book, I do feel like I was getting a little burnt out on the series. It was feeling a little bit repetitive, possibly because I read from books, 5 to 13, all in the span of a couple of weeks. But anyway, I'm going to say it for the, 3rd or 4th time. Decent cozy mystery series. If you like cozies, check it out. If not, you won't be missing anything like huge in your life. Then I read Room to Dream, the 3rd book in the Front Desk series by Kelly Yang, and Mia continues to just warm my heart. I actually won a galley of this from Scholastic, possibly from a shelf awareness giveaway. I honestly can't remember. But I went home for a couple of days between moving out of my New York City apartment and moving to Austria, and there were all these packages, some of which I had ordered, but a couple were galleys that I was very fortunate to receive, so thank you Scholastic to sending this to me. And I stuck this in my backpack for the flight to Austria, but I didn't actually end up reading anything because I was just a little bit stressed out with everything going on. But it was one of the first books I read when I got here, and it was so great. I feel like Mia just continues to grow and change, and even though these books are set in the 90s, I feel like everything that's happening in the stories is very relevant to today's middle grade students, especially, if we have new immigrants to the US who are trying to find their place. Mia is super relatable, and like each story has felt fresh and new, even though they have the same characters. So I wholeheartedly loved it. Definitely recommend it if you haven't picked up the series. Even if you are a grown-up and not a middle grader, I definitely recommend it. And then the final book that I read in August was The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the second book in the Inheritance Games series. And the Inheritance Games was so much fun to read. In general, I really like Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The Fixer is one of my all-time favorite books, and I'm still wholeheartedly broken-hearted that there is not going to be a third Fixer novel. But I keep reading Jennifer Lynn Barnes' other books as she publishes them to sort of try to fill that void, and thus far, I hadn't read anything that was like the same level as The Fixer, but I think The Inheritance Games comes close. It is such a fun story. There's mystery, there's games. If you watched the movie Knives Out and really liked it, it's very similar to that. And The Hawthorne Legacy, I feel like, continued that really well. It doesn't really fall into the sort of second book, not like slump. I feel like that happens a lot in trilogies. I didn't feel like there was too much of an info dump. There was still lots of action. It was still had a good pace. I don't super love the love triangle aspect of it, but just all of the Inheritance brothers, boys, have interesting personalities and add to the story, and I don't hate any of them, which is rare for me to not be super annoyed by at least some of the characters. So yes, definitely if you liked the Inheritance Games, you'll want to pick up The Hawthorne Legacy. And if you haven't read the Inheritance Games, then you should. And then you can read The Hawthorne Legacy. So that is it for the month of August. As I said, I didn't read as many books as I usually do because, I moved to a different country, so I'm giving myself a break. I'm already off to a pretty good start for September, so hopefully I will be back in about a month, maybe a little sooner, with some updates on what I read then. If you want to tell me something that you read in August that you really loved, feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, I will see you next time.